If someone had told Loretta that the person who would one day arrange her kidnapping was her own best friend, she would have laughed and called it nonsense. Because from the outside, Loretta's life looked like the kind people admired. She is young, beautiful, and engaged to a man who seemed completely devoted to her. His name was Daniel. Daniel loved loudly. He surprised her with gifts even when there was no special occasion. Expensive dinners, flowers delivered to her office, weekend trips that appeared out of nowhere. Every birthday felt like a movie scene. Friends watched their relationship on social media and called them couple goals. And standing right beside Loretta through all of it was her best friend, Vanessa. Vanessa had been in Loretta's life since university. They laughed together, shared secrets, cried about heartbreaks, and celebrated every small victory. Whenever Daniel did something romantic, Vanessa was always the first person Loretta called. Vanessa always sounded happy for her. At least, that was what everyone believed. 2 years earlier, everything almost collapsed. During the pandemic, Daniel lost his job. At first, he believed it was temporary. He spent weeks sending applications, making calls, attending online interviews. Nothing worked. Months passed. The savings disappeared. Bills began piling up. The confident man Loretta once knew slowly started breaking down. Daniel became depressed and distant. Some days, he barely left the bed. That was when Loretta stepped into the role no one knew. She paid the rent. She handled the groceries. She kept the electricity running. And every time Daniel felt bad, she simply told him things would get better. But deep inside, the pressure was crushing her. Then, one evening, an opportunity appeared. Loretta secured an interview for Daniel at a powerful company owned by a wealthy executive named Mr. Richard Cole. The position was everything Daniel had been dreaming about: high salary, stability, respect. But after the interview, instead of speaking to Daniel directly, Mr. Cole requested a private meeting with Loretta. She thought it was about Daniel's background. She was wrong. The meeting happened in a restaurant. Mr. Cole spoke calmly, like someone discussing ordinary business. He told Loretta that Daniel was talented, but there were many other candidates. Then he made the offer. If Loretta wanted Daniel to get the job, there was something she could do for him. Something she would never tell Daniel about. The moment hung in the air like poison. Loretta left the restaurant feeling sick. For 2 nights, she didn't sleep. She kept watching Daniel at home, seeing how broken he already was from months of failure. On the 3rd night, she made a decision. Because she believed was love, but she would later regret it for the rest of her life. Daniel got the job a week later. Everything changed after that. His career took off faster than anyone expected. Promotions came quickly, money began flowing again. They moved into a bigger apartment. The expensive dinners returned. The smiles came back. And Daniel never knew the real price that had been paid to rebuild his life. Loretta buried the secret deep inside her heart. She told herself it was worth it. But secrets like that never stay buried forever. Through all of it, Vanessa remained by her side, listening, watching, smiling. But jealousy had been growing inside Vanessa for years. Because long before Daniel fell in love with Loretta, Vanessa had always had a crush on him. And losing him had been a wound she never truly forgot. Months later, one evening, Loretta left work late. The street outside her office was quiet. She had barely taken a few steps toward her car when a black van suddenly stopped beside her. Before she could react, 2 men stepped out. They grabbed her. Her phone fell to the ground. The van door slammed shut. Within seconds, the vehicle disappeared into the night. Hours later, far away in another part of the city, Vanessa sat alone in her apartment. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. "The job is done. We have her." Vanessa stared at the message for a long moment. Then she smiled. Because Loretta had no idea yet. The kidnapping was only the beginning. And the real reason behind it was a secret far darker than jealousy. A secret connected to the sacrifice Loretta thought nobody knew about. And the moment that secret came out, everything in her perfect life would begin to collapse. The night Loretta was kidnapped left chaos behind. Her car was still parked outside her office. But a few meters away by the roadside, someone noticed a handbag lying on the ground. Inside it was her phone, her ID, her wallet. The passerby took it to the nearest police station. By morning, the police contacted Daniel. When he arrived at the station and saw Loretta's bag on the table, his heart nearly stopped. The officers told him that his fiancée had been kidnapped. Daniel barely slept after that. His apartment became a place of panic and fear. Police officers came in and out asking questions. Friends called constantly. And through everything, one person stayed close to him: Vanessa, Loretta's best friend. She showed up looking worried and exhausted,
pretending she had been crying all night. She brought food Daniel barely touched. She stayed late, comforting him, assuring him Loretta would be found. Anyone watching them would have believed Vanessa was deeply heartbroken for her friend. 2 days later, the kidnappers finally contacted Daniel. The call was short. They demanded a large ransom. Daniel didn't hesitate. He began arranging the money immediately. During those stressful days, he barely touched Loretta's belongings. The bag the police returned sat untouched in his living room. His mind was focused on only one thing: getting Loretta back alive. 3 days later, the ransom was paid. That same night, the kidnappers dumped Loretta near a road outside the city and disappeared. When Daniel saw her again, he ran to her immediately. He hugged her tightly. She was weak, shaken, but alive. For a moment, it looked like love had survived everything. A day later, while Loretta was still recovering, Daniel finally picked up the phone the police had returned. He wanted to check if there was anything that could help identify the kidnappers: call logs, messages, emails. But while scrolling through the phone, he saw something unexpected. Old messages. Messages between Loretta and his boss, Mr. Richard Cole. At first, Daniel didn't understand what he was reading. Then the conversation became clearer. The meeting, the deal, the job. Daniel froze. His hands started shaking, because the messages revealed something he had never imagined. Loretta had slept with his boss years earlier to secure his job. That night, Daniel confronted her. Loretta didn't deny it. She cried as she explained everything. She told him she hated herself for it, but did it because she loved him. But Daniel didn't hear sacrifice. He heard betrayal. The relationship that once looked perfect suddenly collapsed. Within days, Daniel ended the engagement. Loretta's heart shattered completely. And during that painful period, Vanessa remained exactly where she wanted to be, right beside Daniel. Listening to him complain about Loretta, comforting him when he felt betrayed, reminding him that he deserved someone loyal. Slowly, Daniel began depending on Vanessa. Late-night conversations turned into longer visits. Longer visits turned into emotional closeness. And one night, after too much alcohol and too much anger, they crossed the line. Daniel slept with Vanessa, Loretta's best friend. What started as a mistake became something darker. Vanessa had waited years for Daniel. Now she finally had him. Months later, Vanessa walked into Daniel's apartment with shocking news. She was pregnant. The child was his. Daniel felt trapped. But before he could even process that situation, something far worse happened. Loretta had been feeling sick for weeks. Unusual fatigue, strange fevers. She finally went to the hospital for a test. The doctor sat down across from her with a serious face. Her blood test had revealed that Loretta was HIV positive. Her mind went blank. The only person she had been with for years was Daniel, which meant the infection likely came from him. Daniel was tested soon after. His result came back positive too. And then, Vanessa, who was pregnant with his child, was also infected. Now, Vanessa used her hands to destroy her life. The police investigation into Loretta's kidnapping had continued, and new evidence had just appeared. Evidence suggesting the person who arranged the kidnapping was not a stranger. It was someone Loretta trusted completely. Someone who had been standing beside Daniel through the entire crisis. Someone named Vanessa. And when that truth finally comes out, how?
The morning the police called Loretta, her heart was already tired. Too many things had happened in such a short time. So when the officer asked her to come to the station, she assumed it was just another question about the kidnapping. She was wrong. When Loretta arrived, the officers showed her a clip taken earlier that same evening, very close to where the kidnappers took her to. A woman standing beside that same van, speaking to the kidnappers. Even though the video wasn't very clear, one detail stood out. The woman's face. Vanessa. Loretta felt the world spin. For several seconds, she couldn't breathe. Loretta left the police station feeling like a different person. The betrayal was too deep to process immediately. But fate had already started punishing Vanessa in ways nobody expected. At the same time the police were closing the kidnapping case, Vanessa's own life had begun falling apart. Her pregnancy was not easy. Her health was unstable.
Doctors had warned her that managing pregnancy while living with HIV would be complicated and dangerous. Hospital visits became frequent. The stress was constant. And Daniel was no longer the supportive man she imagined he would be, because Daniel himself was drowning. The truth about the infection had shattered him. His job was now under investigation after the scandal involving his boss became public. The promotion that once made him feel successful was suddenly surrounded by rumors and gossip. The man who once looked powerful now looked like someone carrying too many mistakes. Meanwhile, Loretta slowly began rebuilding herself. She started treatment. She began attending counseling sessions. For the first time in months, she stopped blaming herself for everything that had happened. She realized something important. Her sacrifice had not destroyed her life. The people she trusted had. And sometimes the only way forward was to stop holding on to those people. A few weeks later, the police finally arrested Vanessa. The evidence was too strong. Phone records, money transfers, confessions from the kidnappers. When Vanessa was brought in for questioning, she didn't even try to deny it for long. The jealousy she had buried for years finally exploded. She confessed everything. She admitted that she arranged the kidnapping because she wanted time to finally get close to Daniel. And for a moment, it had worked. But the victory didn't last. Now she was facing criminal charges while also fighting a complicated pregnancy and a lifelong illness. Daniel eventually visited Loretta one last time. He looked tired and older, broken in ways he never imagined. He apologized for the betrayal, for everything. But Loretta simply listened. Some wounds don't heal with apologies. They heal with distance. When Daniel left that day, Loretta closed that chapter of her life completely. Months later, life had changed for everyone. Vanessa gave birth to a baby boy while under police custody. Her future was uncertain. Court cases were still ahead of her. Daniel had lost his job and moved away from the city, trying to rebuild a life far from the scandals. And Loretta found peace. She continued treatment. She focused on rebuilding her life. The pain she experienced had nearly destroyed her, but it also made her stronger. Because sometimes the people who try the hardest to break you end up breaking themselves instead. And in the end, Loretta realized something powerful. The life Vanessa envied so much was never as perfect as it looked. But the life Loretta was building now was finally hers.